Today, on episode 91, I am pleased to announce our guest, Alexandria Butler, widely known as Lexi B, is a sought-after figure in the tech industry renowned for her transformative work and exceptional ability to cultivate executive leadership and promote workplace equity. With an extensive background at prominent Silicon Valley tech, Lexi B elevated her mission of empowering professionals to new heights by launching a podcast, You Can Sit With Us. This groundbreaking repository serves as a powerful medium for celebrating and discussing the transferable skills that are essential for building the professional life individuals aspire to have. Lexi B's reputation as a sought-after speaker and workplace culture commentator has earned her numerous invitations to share her profound insights and wisdom with organizations of all sizes, as well as prestigious publications such as Pearson, CBS, and more. Bringing her unique blend of entertainment and expertise to the table, Lexi B is poised to revolutionize the way corporate entities approach professional growth and development. So thank you so much, Lexi, for being here today. Before we dive into the questions, would you like to introduce yourself? Today, on episode 91, I am pleased to announce our guest, Alexandria Butler, widely known as Lexi B, is a sought-after figure in the tech industry renowned for her transformative work and exceptional ability to cultivate executive leadership and promote workplace equity. With an extensive background at prominent Silicon Valley tech, Lexi B elevated her mission of empowering professionals to new heights by launching a podcast, You Can Sit With Us. This groundbreaking repository serves as a powerful medium for celebrating and discussing the transferable skills that are essential for building the professional life individuals aspire to have. Lexi B's reputation as a sought-after speaker and workplace culture commentator has earned her numerous invitations to share her profound insights and wisdom with organizations of all sizes, as well as prestigious publications such as Pearson, CBS, and more. Bringing her unique blend of entertainment and expertise to the table, Lexi B is poised to revolutionize the way corporate entities approach professional growth and development. So thank you so much, Lexi, for being here today. Before we dive into the questions, would you like to introduce yourself?
No, I think you did a great job, but I do want to take a moment and just honor you. And I think what you're doing is so powerful, and I'm just so honored to be here.
Thank you so much. So my first question for you is tell us a bit about your career path.
My career path is pretty traditional. I think a lot of people, when they think of the tech industry, there's all these stories around how did you get into tech? And there's all these like crazy, weird, dramatic stories. And mine's pretty boring. I went to college, and during my senior year, spring break, I had an interview at a tech company. Now, I'm very fortunate. I went to Stanford, which is widely known as a school for tech. So I did not plan on going into the tech industry. I stumbled into it. But I had a friend of mine who was you're younger than me, and she was an intern at a company called NetApp. And she sent out an email on one of these mini college email lists and basically said the team that I interned on as a software engineer is looking for a non-technical person to fill their role. And this is, a few weeks before spring break. And I remember at the time I didn't have a job lined up. I didn't have anything lined up. I thought I was going into fashion PR. I had all these job opportunities in fashion PR, and I did not want to take them. So here I am 10 weeks before I graduate. My parents will be on a plane to come see me graduate, and I have nothing to show for it. So I responded to her email, and I said, I'll apply. And I remember she said, but this is not your jam. Like, you want to be in PR. And I was like, I want to be employed. So I'll apply. And so I applied. I got the interview. Spring break, I went to NetApp for the interview, and I got the job, and I started 3 weeks later. And I think that I'm the kind of person who learns on the job. So I spent 4 years at NetApp, and then I transitioned to Airbnb and did 2 years at Airbnb, and then transitioned to Facebook. I was at Facebook for almost 2 years. Then I went to Twitter. I was at Twitter when Elon bought Twitter, which is a whole separate conversation. And after Twitter, I worked at a startup for a couple of months, and now I'm at Microsoft doing AI security. So yeah.
I love that. I mean, you kind of stumbled into something that you didn't really know. And, you just like took the chance and you're like, okay, there is this opportunity. My friend has this, so maybe I could, try it out. And so you did try it out, and here you are with like, um, everything set up for you and you're there. And this kind of only happened because you took that chance to apply for NetApp. So I love that. All right. So my question for you next is, what advice would you give someone wanting to pursue a career similar to yours? And do you have any tips to succeed?
I think my biggest tip to succeed is knowing your worth. I didn't know my worth when I started working because no one told me that I had worth. I mean, I knew ethereally, like I'm a human. I'm a woman. I'm a Black woman. I am worthy. And I don't care how many people tell you that. You really have to know that. And I think early on in my career, I I allowed people to treat me in ways that I will never allow them to treat me now because I didn't know my worth. And I always tell folks, especially young folks, is that just because you don't have a certain skill set yet does not mean that you are not worthy. So that's my first tip. The sub tip of that, I guess the question is, how do you how do you find your worth? And I'm really big on, you want to build a career that parallels, aligns with your personal life. You do not want to live to work. You want to work to live. In the first 8 to 10 years of my career, I lived to work. It was all about the job and that kind of thing. And now that I'm older, I'm realizing that maybe my first 4 years should have been all about the job. So I can learn the job and get really good at my job. But then after a while, you really need to decide what kind of life you want to live. And I'm talking about, do you want to travel? And not just travel, get very specific. Do you want to be able to go to Paris every year on business class, first class? Do you want to travel down the street to your grandma's house in a car? Do you want to live in New York in a penthouse apartment? Do you want to live in Oklahoma in a 3 bed, 2 bath? All of these opportunities are wonderful because they're what you decide. But the biggest lesson here is you need to make those decisions and then build a career around those decisions. At the end of the day, these jobs and these companies will always be here. And I think, especially in my industry right now, in the past couple of years, people have started to realize with all of these layoffs that the job is not the only part of your life. And so that is my recommendation. Get to know your worth. Do not allow people to treat you under your worth, and build a career that aligns to the life that you want, which should align to your happiness. Yeah.
Absolutely. Time really is of the essence. I love that phrase. We work to live or we live to work. And, as a student in high school, we always think that, okay, we should always be kinder to people around us. And it kind of goes into people pleasing. And you kind of just diminish your worth and what you can like do for people. Um, but then, as you kind of realize later on that it's not really about that, you have to kind of just stand up for yourself and know your worth. It's a hard truth. Yes, it is. But at the same time, do you really want to be like belittled by everyone else when you could be standing up for yourself?
Yeah. And I would say, as young people, I mean, I'm no longer a young person, but you as a young person and all of your peers, um, people are going to try to take advantage of your youth. And sometimes they will. A part of knowing your worth is, unfortunately, being in situations where you allowed people to not treat you the way you want to be treated and then learning from that. And I'm not going to lie about that, right? There's going to be times where you're going to be like, yo, I just allowed this person to talk to me any kind of way, and I don't like that. And you need to learn from that and grow. But remember that people will try to take advantage of your youth because you're young, and people know that there is an innocence to youth. And what I'm saying is that as you go through your career, go through college and university and start figuring out who you are and who you want to be, just be keenly aware of that, right? Boundaries are blessings. I tell everyone that. I tell my boss that. I tell the people that work for me that, right? I tell everyone that boundaries are blessings. I also tell people that there is a balance. Boundaries are blessings. I advocate for myself. But I always try to come to work, and instead of saying no to people, I say no and. So many times at work, people come to me and ask me all different, like, can you do this? Lexi, can you do this? Can you do this? Can your team do this? Can you do this? It's a constant thing. And 9 times out of 10, my answer is no. But I don't just say no, I say no and. So I listen to the request. And whether it's a no and let me introduce you to the team that does that, or no and maybe my team can support in this type of way. No and come to me in 3 months when we have more bandwidth and we can talk about it, right? I really try to be the no and person because no, I'm not going to do your job. Okay. But I do want you to be successful and I do want to be a great working partner to you. It's very important. Boundaries are blessings. I hope that's the lesson that we learn from this podcast. Advocating for yourself is crucial. Being a good steward of community is also crucial. And that's when no and comes in.
I love that. And it's really hard to just stick up for yourself. Like for me, I'm a very, very big people pleaser, but I'm trying to like tone it down and like, advocate for myself. But it's really hard to just like set those boundaries when you've like pretty much let people walk all over you. And it's hard because like if they're friends, and if you've been with them for a long time, it's hard to be like, okay, now it's the time to stop. I need to, just push through what I want to say. But at the same time, it's really rewarding when you start doing that and paving a path where, okay, I'm in control of what I want to do, and I'm not going to let someone else's opinion go over that for me.
Exactly. I completely agree.
All right. And my question for you is, what is a common myth about your profession that you want to debunk?
I think a common myth about the specific thing that I do in tech is that you need all of these degrees to get it done. You don't. I would like to put an asterisk in that and say that I fully support higher education. I mean, I went to Stanford University. I fully support higher education. So I'm not trying to tell people do not pursue higher education if that's what they would like to do. What I am saying though is that in the tech industry, if you compare it to other industries in capitalism, the majority of these people who own these industries don't even have college degrees, like barely graduated from high school 2 days ago. Okay. So put some things in perspective, right? 99% of the job that I do, I learned on the job. Now, I'm not going to lie about that. I'm always very candid. I got the opportunity to get the job probably because I went to Stanford. I was not qualified for the role at NetApp when I was 22. I think they hired me because I went to Stanford, because I got a referral from my friend who was on the team, and because in the interview I sounded articulate and I sounded very curious to learn. Let's be very clear about that, right? But that those three components did not create this career that I have right now, which is a very long career. I had to learn on the job. I had to hustle. I had to be scrappy. I had to be the person in the room that was like, I want to learn more. Let's go to lunch so I can learn more. I had to be the person that was saying yes to a lot of stuff in the beginning of my career, right? And working many, many hours in the beginning of my career. And the reason why I did that was that I had this imposter syndrome that I felt like I don't know what's going on in the room. I need to work harder in order to be up with my peers, right? So that's the biggest myth, is that you need all of this education, all of these certificates, all of this stuff. You need to have characteristics of scrappiness, characteristics of hunger and curiosity, and learning on the job. So mess up, take the feedback, make a change. That's what you need to do in the tech industry to be successful. Yeah, that's what I would say.
I love that. You have to have the hunger, and you just have to be very, very curious in the tech industry because a lot of opportunities, they will only come if you like want to do it. And even if you don't want to do it, you can always like fake it till you make it. But like so long as you want to like try and you put yourself out there, that's kind of where you'll get the opportunities. Yes, it kind of conflicts with what we said before that you have to advocate for yourself, but at the same time, as you said, you kind of have to let the door open to get all of these opportunities. And I think that's very, very powerful because as you're starting out young, not a lot of people want to hire, really young people. But if you put yourself out there and say, like, okay, I want to do this and I'm willing to learn, then people will like know you and will want to like bring you in on a team.
And I would actually challenge that. I think that advocacy actually goes in line with that, right? You have to advocate yourself to get the opportunity. When the boss walks in the room and says, hey, I have, this team over here wants to work with one of our people on our team who wants to do it. You need to advocate for yourself to say, pick me, boss, pick me. Don't pick him, pick me, right? And so I think advocacy goes along with it. I think that there is a balance. There is a balance. And I'm a millennial. I have a little brother and we're 8 years apart. So he's part of, what is that, Gen X? And it's very interesting how he moves through capitalism versus how I move through capitalism. And I do want to honor these Gen X and Gen Zers because y'all are out here just blowing it up, right? The TikTok videos I see of Gen Zers like, I want a soft life. I'm here for a short time and a good time, not a long time. No, I'm not working 90 hours a week. And for the record, as a freedom fighter, I fully support that, sis. Do not let capitalism take over your life. I fully support this. And I do wish that we millennials had more of that attitude when I was first in my career. What I am saying, though, is that if you would like a career in tech, in corporate tech, which is your decision, right? There has to be a balance. You have a right to say, I'm not working 15-hour days. You also have to be that person in the room that says, I do want to go work on that project. I do care how this team sees me. Do they see me as a good team player? Do they see me as someone who's curious? Do they see me as someone that they can go to who's resourceful? You have to care about that. And there is this balance that we have to get to. And I'll be the first person to say as a millennial that I do not think that we millennials, at least when I was a 22-year-old millennial, we balanced that out well. And so I'm advocating now more balance. Yeah.
I love that, the balance. You have to advocate for yourself if you want something, but also if you don't want something, because it kind of goes back to, you're only advocate, so you just gotta say whatever is on your mind. And my next question for you is, if you could step into my shoes, what would you have asked yourself that I didn't?
Are there differences of being a woman in tech versus being a woman of color in tech versus being a BIPOC woman in tech? That's what I probably ask. Yeah. And so I think that as I can only speak from my experience as a dark-skinned Black woman in the tech field, just put that out there, is that I know that there are hurdles and challenges that I faced, not just because I'm a woman, but because I am a Black woman. And those hurdles and challenges are not tech specific. We live in America, we live in Western society. I'd probably have those same issues if I was in a different industry, right? Tech is a conglomerate of the system that we live in. And the system that we live in is racist and misogynistic and queerphobic, et cetera, right? So regardless of what field you go into, your identity plays a lot into that. And the challenges and the triumphs many times are influenced by the identity that not only you identify with, but what people assume your identity is, which sometimes is different, right? And so I would say, like you said, you need to really find community. When you adult, you need to find community. And adulting is very hard, especially when it comes to finding community. Because think about it, when you're a kid, you have built-in community. You have to go to school. You probably have a couple of activities, right? So if you are on this, if you take ballet class or you take swimming after school or you do basketball after school, that is a community. Your parents literally pay to play. They pay to put you in an activity, and then there's other kids there your age. And I'm not saying all of them are going to become your best friend, okay? But you might find one or two friends, cool people you can connect with, right? When you go to school, you have to go to math class. You have to go to history class. You have to go to these activities in this building throughout the day. hopefully there are people in that building that you actually enjoy spending time with. And then you decide to spend time with them on the weekends when you don't have to be in school, right? When you become an adult, there is no building of school that is required. There is work. And work is so loaded that it's like, just because we're cool coworkers does not mean you need to know everything about me after work. So what you said is very powerful, is community is key, especially for intersectional women. Community is key. You need to find people that have the same identity layers as you to help you navigate hardship and celebrate your triumph. And if you don't, it's going to be a very, very lonely adulting journey. So I cannot express that enough.
100% agreed. Like as kids, we kind of have like a perfect chess piece. Like all the pawns are laid out because like our parents put us in so many classes. Like I personally had like tutoring and then swim classes and then dance. So I had a lot
Yeah.
of things. And I made so many friends along the way. But as you grow up, you kind of realize that, okay, my parents can't do everything for me. I have to go out of my way. And then, as I'm not an adult yet, I will be soon, which is kind of terrifying. I'll have to do this myself. And it just kind of goes to show that you have to put yourself out there and, just talk to people and find that sense of community.
You do. You do. Yeah.
And what are the best resources slash books that have helped you find your career path?
Um, are these even appropriate for this podcast? So there is a book, I think it's called Zero F's Given, but really it talks about boundary setting. And it's written by this man who happens to be white, who's an adult. And his whole point is through the book, and it's a very easy read. And his whole point through the book is he's like, this is how you professionally not care, or in his language, not give an F. And I highly recommend it to everyone, even with the derogatory language, because it literally lays out the plan of action. There are ways to hold your boundaries, not care what other people think, and still be on top. Another book that I really, really enjoy is the book called Shoe Dog, and it's about how Nike was built. And I'll be on record all the time to say that I do not agree with the founder of Nike's political philosophies in any capacity. But that book was so transformative because he was so honest about how Nike was built and the ways in which he went about things, how the Nike swoosh happened, and those kinds of things. And whether you read that book or whether you read Creativity Inc., which is how Pixar was built, or whether you read the founders of Netflix wrote a book about how Netflix was built, I highly recommend finding one of these books that one of these founders have written about how insert major consumer company was built and learn from it, because it is fascinating. And the lessons you can learn about how to move in your career, about the questions you should be asking about yourself, and how to navigate yourself in your career are very transformative. And then lastly, I always say everybody should read The Alchemist.
I love that. And it kind of just goes to show that like you can see so many of the big takeaways from the people who've,
Yeah.
quote unquote have done it. The people who have made their major product like the best sellers and have marketed their ideas to so many people. There's so many resources out there and I can't wait to check them out.
Yeah.
Okay, and what do you think is a vital factor that shaped your career? What was your life before learning it, and what was your life after learning it?
I can tell you a story. So my first year at NetApp was really hard. And for the record, I want to say anybody's first year in the corporate world is very hard. That first year out of college, fam, is maybe one of the hardest years of your life. Because unless, for the record, unless you are continuing education, right? But if you graduate from college and then you have decided to pause on education or not continue it and go into money making, whatever that looks like for you, it is one of the hardest first years of your life. This is going to be the first time in your life where nothing is set out for you. There is no 9 a.m. statistics class. There is no 11 a.m. swim class. It's like you go to this place, you make money, and you come home. So in your first year, it's just psychologically very, very difficult. And I highly recommend get a therapist. But for me, it was also difficult because I was learning this new job. I did a lot of theater growing up, so I'm very good at emulating people and faking it till I make it. So my first year out of college, because I did not know what was going on, I was an engineering program manager. Y'all, I majored in journalism at Stanford. Those are different. Okay? Those are different. I decided I'm just going to emulate the people that I consider powerful in this room. Whatever they say, I'm going to say it exactly. However they walk in the hallway, I'm going to walk. I'm like theater, I'm just going to copy you, copy paste. And then I was put on a PIP. A PIP is a performance improvement plan. Basically, NetApp was trying to fire me, okay? Because I did horrible my first year. And I had this director, so my boss's boss, for whatever reason, this man saw something in me and he didn't fire me. So he gave me a second chance. And that night I came home, I cried for a little because nobody wants to be rejected. Nobody wants to fail the test. And I definitely failed it. And I was like, what did I do wrong? And so I actively decided when I went to work the next day that I'm no longer going to pretend to be someone else. I'm no longer going to try to be someone else. I'm going to be authentically me. Because if these people are going to fire me, they're going to fire me as me being me. Okay? And I always tell people that that day was the turning point in my career when I actively decided to be Lexi in the hallways and not anyone else. When I decided that Lexi was good enough to be in that hallway, not Lexi pretending to be someone else, right? And so the lesson there is be your authentic self. That will take you far. And the reason why it'll take you far is there's going to be a whole lot of people that don't like your authentic self. And guess what? That's totally fine. I hope and pray for you that they show themselves earlier than later, because it is just as powerful to know the people who ride for you. It's also powerful to know the people that don't. Just don't hang around them, okay? You do not want to be everyone's cup of tea. And so that is always my advice to people now coming up in the next generation. Be your authentic self and find the people that love it and want to cater to it and want to hug it, and find the people that can't stand it. Know those people, so don't be around them, okay? But then also with that, authenticity does not mean coming to work acting a fool. And I also tell people that this is what authenticity looks like. How you talk to your grandmother is different than how you talk to your neighbor, which is different than how you talk to your boyfriend or girlfriend, which is different than how you talk to your teacher, which may be different than how you talk to your best friend, which is different than how you talk to your younger sibling, right? At least I would hope so. How you talk to your mom should be different than how you talk to your friend. Okay? And it's not because you're being different people or you're being inauthentic. It's because the relationship with your mom is fundamentally different than the relationship with your friend. And so when I say be authentic, that's what I'm saying. Be exactly who you are. But that does not mean that you're changing who you are for your coworkers. What it means is that how you are with your coworkers will probably be different than how you are with the person you date or how you are with your friend at happy hour. And that's not being inauthentic. That's being smart.
I love that. That is so inspiring because when we all, like as kids, we always think of someone to look up to, like our role models.
Yeah.
And when we're fresh out of the waters outside of school, we honestly try to emulate and try to embody someone that we look up to. And I think that's what you were trying to do because you wanted to like look up to someone. And then you realize that you can't be doing that. You have to like be yourself in a way. You really shouldn't be molding yourself based on like the different relationships you have. I love what you said there. Being authentic means that, maybe you'll show different sides to someone because your relationships with them are different. Like you pretty much won't show like your slang or like your funny self to like a really high up person because you don't want them to think that way of you. You'll probably show that to someone closer than you. And I think that's what being authentic is, not to mold yourself to a certain someone because you show yourself and that side to someone else.
Yeah, and I would also add to that, like still find people that you look up to, right? I look up to so many people, and many of them don't even know that I exist. But what I do is that when those people say something that I like or do something that I like, take that lesson and try to figure out how you can do that within your own authenticity. So just because this person said something and you liked it, the question is, did you like how they said it? Did you like what they said? Did you like the feeling you received when they said it? And so what I do is I take that and I say, which one is it? Okay, I liked how they said it, right? I've never heard someone say that way. I like that. So I may take that quote and try to use it because I liked how you said it. If I liked what you said, I may not say it how you say it, but I'm like, I need to get to that point though. That's a great point. So I'm going to practice that. I want that point to come across within me because I agree with your point, right? And then you have the feeling that I received when you said it. I want that feeling. I want other people to have that feeling. Does not mean that I'm going to say it how you said it, but I'm trying to emulate the feeling into someone else, right? And so that's the lesson, is that you can look up to people and you can try to copy paste what they do. I'm not saying don't look up to people. What I'm saying is that you need to figure out how it fits on your body. It's kind of like buying a new dress. Just because the dress looks bomb on your friend does not mean it's gonna look bomb on you. Okay. And that's okay. But figure out why you love the dress that your friend is wearing and go try to find an outfit that gives you that same feeling. Doesn't mean it's going to be the exact same dress. Do you see what I'm saying?
I love that metaphor.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, and my last question for you is what's one thing you wish you had known when you began your career?
I wish I had known how to negotiate. When I graduated from Stanford, NetApp, I will never forget, NetApp offered me $71,000 to live in the Bay Area, which is not a lot of money, y'all. Then 3 days later, they called back and they offered me $80,000. Looking back on it, I found out that they were changing their salary structure. And so all new college grads were going to make the same amount, which was $80,000. $80,000 is not a lot of money. I come from St. Louis, Missouri. I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. My parents, my dad's a doctor, my mom's a teacher. They work in professions that do not require negotiations. So I didn't come from adults who knew how to negotiate, right? And I wish I knew how to negotiate. It's taken me, and the reason why, and this is really important, is that when you start in the tech industry, you are locked in at a price. So if you're making $80,000 at whatever company you're making and you want to move companies, you are now kind of on like the $80,000 spectrum, right? Unless that company divulges their information to you, which they won't, and offers you a lot of money, you're probably going to say, okay, well, I make $80,000 at 22. Now I want $150,000. And that's what you're going to ask for, not knowing that this company may have $200,000 to give you. So I've lost a lot of money in my career because I did not negotiate. And by the time that I realized I needed to negotiate, and then I built the skills to negotiate, I was losing more money. I was losing more cash. So my recommendation to you and your audience is learn how to negotiate early. The earlier you learn how to negotiate, the more money you will make, at least in the tech industry. And remember, you deserve it. You deserve all of it. Take it all.
As a reminder, I am set to launch a book regarding women in STEM. If you've ever wondered if you can get a shortened summary of this podcast channel's key moments, fear not, because this Women in STEM book is set to launch in fall 2024. For more information, follow my Instagram page, linked in the show notes, or Aarna's_news. Thus, that concludes the episode for this week. If you want to know more about how I relate to these amazing topics, then stay tuned for upcoming episodes. A free way to support this show is by leaving it a 5-star rating and a review on the player you are listening to. Let me know what you enjoy about this podcast, as it's a chance to tell me what you love about the show, and it helps others discover it too. Once again, thank you for finding me, and I hope we stay in touch with each other. Zito, you're listening to Aarna Sahu, the host of Aarna's News. Toodles!